off with the most foundational of the communication supports, whether it's for augmentative or for an alternative form of communication, and that is just the communication boards. So today we're going to be going over both print and on-screen, and I'm going to be using the BoardMaker online program to show you and talk to you about this. Because we just have an hour, and you will see that BoardMaker Online is a pretty large program, online program. I'm pretty much just going to be demonstrating different parts that I think will help you enhance your therapy and / instruction with the students, both in person, if you're lucky enough to be able to be doing that right today or this semester, or virtually, or a combination of both. Amanda's going to be monitoring the chat. It is a little challenging for me to see the chat window and see everything else on my screen. So she's going to be monitoring and interrupting me if I need to repeat or something's you're not seeing what I'm seeing. Otherwise, for most questions, we'll probably be answering them at the end of the session. Okay, so just to let you know how that's going to go. I think that most of you probably already saw this. This is the QR code or the bit.ly, depending on what's more convenient for you, to be able to get to our Google Drive. It'll have a resource list of some of the resources that I'm referring to today. One thing I did put on that resource list that I referenced as well is the ASHA, which is, for most of you know, is the speech and language organization, and their page on in-person and virtual teletherapy. So I did pull some of the strategies from there. So I did put that link on there for those of you who want to look at it more. It's the first one. Otherwise, I will just be mentioning like, oh, you'll find this on the resource or in your Google Drive. Okay. And then I think Amanda also put the bit.ly in the chat window for those of you who are just joining us. So if you want to log, on there.
Yes, I did. So, and if you have any questions or can't get access, just drop that in the chat and I'll get that fixed for you.
The chat will be your best friend for this session. Okay, so this is a meaty slide, and really it's this whole PowerPoint presentation, which is only 10 slides long because most of this session is in the program of BoardMaker Online, is really for your information in case you're submitting ASHA CEUs, or this session for ASHA CEUs for those of you who have your Cs. But basically this tells about the organization that I work for. I'm not going to go through the whole thing because I'm sure you could read it now or later. But basically I'm a school site field training coordinator, and one of our jobs is to work with specific school sites and help them implement the evidence-based practices that are found to be the most effective based on research with students on the autism spectrum disorder, or ASD. So we usually start with the foundational 5, and as you can see, I highlighted communication. So this session also feeds into our goal in building capacity within the schools, families, community in using evidence-based practices with individuals with autism, which as you look at that list, is just good instruction or best practice instruction really for all students, depending on their needs, the subject, all those different factors that we're all trained as professionals to assess. So just let you know that this is how that fits into our goal. And if you would like more information at the very end in my references, I do have our email website if you'd like to contact us more and learn more about having us work at your school. For those of you who are getting your Cs, I know that ASHA, or any of you who are submitting this for PDs, they may ask for learning objectives. So I did put some basic learning objectives, which, all around the communication boards. But if you look at the last one, it's all about, we will talk a little bit about how to provide instruction virtually using BoardMaker Online. All right, so I always feel when I listen to presentations that I like to think of a student that I can apply these skills to or the information to. So I provided a case study for you, and it's about Kaylee. She has an expressive language disorder, meaning that she has some functional speech, but it's not enough for her to express express her needs and wants and go beyond a yes and no, probably because she's using the nonverbal yes and no. I think we all can think of a student like that, right? And those are usually the students that we are using the communication boards with. You have been working on using core boards and fringe boards with her in the classroom at the end of this last school year, and she was just starting to, you know, go from using behaviors usually or sounds, right, that maybe the people who know her best know what she wants, but, you know, not new people. So she's now starting to understand the communication process, and she's showing interest. And now you're back in school and you have to teach her virtually. So how do you do that? This is, again, agenda for any of those who are submitting this for PD. But basically, this is the rest of the presentation is going to be on demonstration. And just things I want to call out, we will go to a community part of the website that is free to everyone. In fact, I should call out now that what I'm going to show you today, their Boardmaker is offering a 60-day trial. Usually it's 30 days, but it's 60 days, I think, because of the virtual aspect of it. And so anything that I show you today, any of the resources that you see that are Boardmaker related can be applied. You just need to create a trial account. And as you see on number 6, the core first learning curriculum, which is usually a paid subscription, is available to you. And there's many PDFs. I will show you where that is in the program, but it's amazing. It's really great. But in addition, you have a community, which, you know, a lot of people have been creating boards, whether it's the core boards, adaptive core boards, you know, whatever it is. And I'm going to show you how to get there. And then you can easily edit those, turn them into PDFs. Or if you have the program, you have the subscription, you can, you know, use them virtually. But think about this as the next 60 days being able to create and access a lot of resources. There's going to be a sharing group that OVEC and I will be monitoring. And so if you want to share your boards, if you do have Boardmaker, or share or with other people, then that's a place you can do that. And then the last thing, the Student Center. This is a app that comes with the whole Boardmaker online that parents can download onto an iPad or iPhone or, you know, Android, and then you can upload activities into that app specifically for students. So you can assign individuals accounts, and then you can have the students work on that on their devices. It will take data if you assign it. So I'm not going to talk very much about that. I'll probably talk more about that in other sessions because it's more applicable. But I just want to introduce it to you today in case you have it. And again, any questions will be after the session. So just in case, because it's at the very end, in case I don't get to cover it in too much detail or show it to you, this is basically what the Student Center looks like. This one has a lot of activities, but you don't have to put that many activities, but it's any on-screen activities that you assign to the student. Communication board wise, it could just be one activity with the communication board on there that they're selecting it, the buttons that speak. Then as you can see, there's progress morning, and I put all those resources on that resource page in your Google Drive. The reason why I highlighted this is because some of the ideas that Amanda was sharing with me that she's heard teachers use is that they can bring up either the PDF or this on-screen communication board and use the annotation from tools from Zoom during instruction. If the students are a little bit, you know, more sophisticated, or the parents are more sophisticated with technology, they could use the remote control with the activities. You can send boards home because you can turn any of these into PDFs, send it, you know, via email to the parents, have them print it off and have them accessible during the session, and then they're able to use it throughout the day at home, and then hopefully in the community if they're not already on a device, on-screen device. And then any other ideas, you know, I'm sure that we're all very creative people in this field. So I'm sure other ideas will pop up too. These are our references. Like I said, this is for the PDF. And then here's our Amanda and I contact information if you have any questions in between this week's session and next week's session. Okay, with that, it's showtime. Showtime for our Boardmaker Online. This is the resource in case those of you who have not been in the Google Drive. You can see there's a few handouts in here, and then the resource page is right here, with all those links. Okay, let me go on to Boardmaker Online. All right, I wasn't logged in because it does time out if you don't. Oh, look at that, sign me in automatically. I never know whether it's going to do that or not.
Enid,
I know, that was nice. So
yes.
because I did used to work for Boardmaker, I do have one of my parting gifts was a district, if you want to put it that way, was a district account. So
Enid,
yes,
your screen has frozen
uh-oh.
in the share. So if you'll just stop sharing real quick and then reshare, it should pop itself right back into place.
Sure, thank you.
No problem.
And it did have a little note about popping the screen to the front, which I was going to
go. All right, we're good to go. Thank you so much.
Yes, no problem. Technology is always fun. All right. So as I was mentioning, I do have a district account. So there are 3 different accounts. There's which you can sign up as a trial right now, 60 days. Well, I'm sorry. You can't sign up for a district account for 60 days, but you can sign up for a personal account or a professional account. The professional account is going to look similar to mine, okay? The difference between the personal and the professional is the professional has those individual student accounts that you can send out to your students, and then they can download that Student Center app and put it onto their iPad or whatever, okay? That's the only difference. The personal one will have all the ability to use everything that you see today except for that part, okay? So that's just the difference if you go on there, because I'm not going to go into detail on that. Okay, so the first thing but our agenda says we're going to talk about, and I'd like to show you, and I always love to share with people because I would have loved to have this as a teacher. And sorry, I kind of skipped over that introduction part, but yeah, my background is as a special education teacher who then went to work for an AAC or Toby Dynavox / Boardmaker. And then I came back to the schools, and now I'm working for KATC. So this is visual supports were very dear to my heart, especially with my kids with autism, because a lot of times they are visual learners. But I say that, but you've got all our kids are visual learners. We're visual learners. We live in a very visual world, right? Culture. So it's awesome that people have already created a lot of these activities that we use in the schools with our students. And so the way we get there is to go to community activities. And there are thousands and thousands and thousands of activities. So for our topic today and for our student Kaylee, we want to look for communication boards, right? So one thing you may type in is communication boards right in there. It's a search engine just like Google. So depending on how specific you get or how general you are is what will pop up. Also, these are uploaded by people just like ourselves. So it depends on what they titled them, right? So if you don't find what you're looking for, you may want to think about what something, it's another name for what you're looking for. But a lot of times you see for communication board, they just put communication board for some of them. But look how many there are when I search this way, 14,000 of them. Yes. So you see on the left, there's some tools that you can use to kind of narrow that down. I usually, for communication boards, I just make sure that they are using it for communication, because sometimes the word communication boards can also be used for choice boards too. So I just make sure it is focused on communication because they can tag that. That brings it down a lot, 3,200. And so you can put maybe a communication for the books. You can even put core boards and see what people have done with core boards. So you can see how now that narrows it down just a little bit. One that I saw that I liked was called Peekaboo. It's for Peekaboo Morning. And I thought it was a good example. So this professional adapted a core board for her student. And she put in, specific symbols or pictures. You can also put photographs, pictures for the book for Peekaboo Morning. So that's using the core board, right, for stories. So when you're on this program, you're gonna, in order to access this, I'm gonna select the plus sign, and that's gonna place it into my own personal folder in the program called My Activities. Now from here, I can go and if I like it just the way it is, I can print it. I can look at it closer online. And there's a lot of other things you can do here as well, but I want to show you where it went. Okay. So I'm going to go to My Board Maker. This is going to show, this is where I have my own personal, all my boards, anything I've made or transferred over. You can create folders in there to organize them. And then I want to look at it a little bit closer. So I'm going to go to edit, and that's the little pencil right there, because I want to, there is something I'm going to put, instead of having the dog symbol, I'm going to put a real dog in there. Maybe, you know, if from the internet, you can bring in pictures from the story. So it's a little bit more specific, because the student from Kaylee, she needs it a little bit more individualized. She needs those pictures. She really responds to those pictures versus the symbols. Or maybe different symbols. If they're using a device that has symbol sticks, or they're using News to You in the classroom or anything like that, then maybe, you know, you want to change it. So when it's already a pre-made activity, a window will pop up like this. Okay, so now this is the Board Maker program in online. And so, so I want to go to the dog, and so I'll just click on it, and I can do I'll show you this part first. So I'm going to go to symbols over here to the right. You can see my cursor going around, and maybe make this a little bit bigger. Little symbols over here. And you can get to symbols, but if you look all the way down to the bottom of the screen, and I'll click on it so the three options pop up, you have symbols, My Media, and web search. So for our purposes today, I'm going to go to the web and type in dog, just for time purposes. But if you wanted to bring in a specific dog, like if I typed in the story to see what dogs are in there, and maybe that's one dog from the story, or My Media, you can upload your own pictures into there. So let's go ahead and just pick one of these dogs, and it's literally a click, drag, and drop right into there. It's going to ask you, do you want to replace it? Do you want to add to it? We could, put more pictures in there if we wanted to, or cancel. So I want to replace that picture. And so now the picture of the dog pops right in there. So it's very, very easy to edit. The rest of it works just like you would think. You could delete the buttons, make them bigger, smaller, whatever the case may be. Once you're done editing, then you're just going to select the save button right at the top right corner. It's going to ask you to rename it, because remember, it was originally somebody else's. But so now you have a new one, Peekaboo with pics, because the other one is going to also still be in your folder, and I save it, and that's it. So I recommend, anytime, especially if you're stuck on how to support a student with a certain topic, or if it's for ELA or reading of books, or anything like that, go to the community and see what they have. This is all free. This is free even if you don't even have a subscription for Board Maker. The part that the trial is actually the editing part and being able to change it. But if you like them the way they are, then this is or you have the trial, you can make a bunch of boards, download them as a PDF, and then you have them in your folders. Sorry, my Zoom is in the way there. Okay, so I'm going to close it right now, because I'm going to show you how to print it. So I've been mentioning these PDFs. So yes, you could send this PDF to the parent. You can see the little print icon. It's just as easy as clicking right on it. It says preparing your PDF. If it's a large file, like if there's multiple pages, because obviously there's other visual supported activities in here, like social stories or anything like that, it may take a little bit longer. But with a simple board like that, you see how quick that was. At the top right corner, you see a little bell. It says number 1. When I click on it, there's my PDF. I just click on it again, and my PDF will pop up, and I can save it onto my computer. So that's for any of those thousands of boards and activities that you saw on there, okay? The next thing we're gonna look at is the templates that are in BoardMaker. If I go ahead and go to my BoardMaker, right? So whatever page I'm on, I'm gonna make sure I'm on my BoardMaker, because that's my own personal area. I'm gonna go right here where it says create activity, select create activity. And this is where the templates are. Now, again, there are hundreds of templates in here, and they're all based on the most common formats that people use to create visual activities. So as you can imagine, BoardMaker did start off as a communication support tool. It was created by an SLP. And so there are a lot of communication and participation templates in here, as well as anything else that the speech and language pathologists and teachers use, because her husband was a special ed teacher. So the combination of the two did feed into this, but also all the feedback that they got from the teachers and the SLPs that they worked with. So you could select the communication and participation, or as you see instructional area down here, they have, and it's basically the same templates. They're just split into different categories depending on how you look at them. So if I do communication, now this is just going to bring up all the communication related templates. And then at the top, you can see they have, whether they're interactive, they talk to you, know, when you select it, it'll automatically talk in a computer voice, okay? And then the printed ones as well. There's usually a lot more printed than interactive, because the interactive are all programmed. But I'm going to select interactive just to introduce you to the idea of creating interactive templates so that you can use them both as interactive and print. So you have that consistency of the format in two ways of using it. So if you're sending home a PDF to the parent, but you're teaching the student how to use an on-screen activity, then you have that same consistency in the way it looks like, so the student doesn't have to relearn an activity. So I'm going to do this very simply by using a communication board, one of the communication boards. And you can see they have very different ones, 4 items, 16 items. Hold on, I'm trying to get down to, okay, let's see if you can see the rest of them. There we go. 12 items and 8 items. So they always have samples. So if you want to see how one of these activities sound or look like, you can always select it. But for time purposes, let's just go into the template and I'll just show you how to populate it. But I think you got a pretty good idea just from the editing part. I showed you one way, because that's probably the easiest way to edit an activity that's already been made. But if you're starting from scratch, as they call it, and you have a template, then you can just click on the buttons and just start typing. So say the first thing, we're for example going to do a more general one that the student can use in different, so classroom communication, okay? And if I want to make that bigger, I highlighted just like you would do in Word, and on the right side, you're going to see all your tools that automatically pop up for whatever you're working on. And then I can make it bigger, smaller, into italics, underlined, all that good stuff is all on the right side. Then I select one of the buttons and say one of the first ones is help. They need help with their work, right? I just start typing, I select enter. And now another window pops up. Now here are the classic BoardMaker symbols, okay? So if your student's is used to using the BoardMaker symbols, you have them around the classroom. So yeah, these are all the different libraries that you can imagine. They'll keep popping up as they pop, you know, they'll keep populating, because now they went from help to help me, you know, we saw in different circumstances. So let's say we want to do help, you know, help with work, like help me think of an idea or the answer. So I just press select. Now, if it's something like we were talking about with the with an item that they have, like a specific item. Maybe they need their, well, Amanda, what do you think a student may need in the classroom that they may request? Sorry to put you on the
So,
spot.
no problem. So a lot of times it's going to be help or drink or
Okay.
break
Yes,
or things of that nature.
yes, yes. So that's what I had in mind, but I wanted to kind of, because the next one I wanted to show you, do to drink, right? But let's say the student has a specific cup that they use.
Mhm.
So I can, that web search that I used before, I can access that web search from here. It doesn't search for it right away because sometimes we want to look for a different picture that's related to the saying, you know, especially if it's a more of a short sentence in the button. But now you have drinks. All right, look at all those cocktails. They must have known what we were thinking.
With NTI, that's probably what my communication board's going to look like.
Right, our communication boards would say that. Okay, so then that means we might need to put drink cup. All right, let's see, drink cup. All right, so maybe this is more in line with what we want to have for our student. Okay, so you can see though how that may work. That's obviously just how the web works in general for us. But let's see, this one looks like a little bit more customized, like it was somebody's special drink cup. So I just select it and press select. But before I press select, I just want to show you. If you don't find the picture on the web, or you already have the picture on your computer, okay, because you just took a bunch of pictures, right? Yes, all over the classroom, all this. You can just go to browse right here. Do you see at the bottom right here? It has no symbol, and then browse, and browse will take you straight to your computer and you just pop it in. Okay, so this is actually the more user-friendly way in the sense, okay, so the one thing about the web one is that it's using, I don't think it's using Bing. I think it's using another one, but if Bing or whoever the server is takes that picture off, but doesn't take the option to choose that picture off, then that's what happens. So that's all that means. Here, we'll just choose another one. Okay, so there's our drink cup. So I think you got a good idea of how this works, right? Pretty simple in the sense that once you know that you're either typing it in or on the right side, you have your properties of how you may want to change it. And then once you're done, yes, I would keep going with, you know, help, drink, eat, restroom, right? All the generic ones that the kids, you know, that all kids ask the teachers during the day. So once you're done with that, yep.
And Enid, I was just going to say, what's really nice about this right now is think about if you are totally virtual, as we know, you know, kind of everything changed Monday. So if you're going all virtual to start with, talk to your parents, talk to your caregivers, load these communication sheets for what they're doing at home right now. And then you can adjust those cups and such when you get back to your classrooms.
Yes, because everything is editable. Edible. Maybe I'm hungry.
You know, sometimes in our classrooms they're edible
yeah,
too.
they're edible.
So you know,
it's true.
It's all good.
That's funny. Classroom communication. Okay, so they're having me name it, save, and then I could also, as you can see, I could have played it from there too. Nope, let me do that. I'll just play it from here. And so you have
help
and
drink.
Okay, so it'll talk, and there is a way to change it to your voice or somebody else's voice, but again, that's getting into more detail. But if you just want a simple one, there you go. And then remember I told you you could print it out. So you could do file, and then it has print activity. You could print it in this mode, but the only thing is you're gonna get the red lettering. You see the red lettering, this is just to help you. So I would close this out and then select play from your toolbar right here. Oh, sorry, I'm so used to printing it. That was just a autopilot mode right there. And then you have these double arrows right here, which gives you the option to then print it out. And I would print it because you don't see the red lettering on this one. It just has I would just print it out from here, and then it will show up with the red bell right here. There it is right there. So that's how fast it is. So you can print it out, send it home, and then still have it as an online. Again, I'm setting you up for the other sessions when we're talking about academics or for SLPs, all the different language exercises that you go through with the students. Interactive makes it fun, but you can also print out the same activity into a PDF and have it as a more manipulative activity at home, and just put instructions for the parents. So you're doing it online, interactive with the student, and then they can do it, through a manipulation part at home, if that's just one of the ideas. Okay, so we talked about finding it, we talked about templates, and let's see. So those were some ways that that with Kylie we could provide, right, her boards, not only have boards that are related to the curriculum that she's working on with her teacher, but also be able to provide boards that she would then be able to use at home. As Amanda said, those are communication boards that her parents could use at home, and you're just showing them how to use it. And then, getting feedback from there. If you have the student center, like I talked about, then you can also have them use it on her iPad as an interactive activity. So that would be motivating. So those are just some of the connections that we made. Okay, so let's see, just make sure I cover what I told you I was going to cover. Okay, so now when you sign up for the trial, this is that curriculum that I was telling you about. So obviously it's going to be under curriculum right here at the very top. And this is the core first that we were mentioning. Again, this is usually a subscription. But for the next 60 days, you can access it. And this is nothing that the company is not already telling people. So I did put a handout in that folder that is from Toby Dynavox that talks about all, the resources that they have right now during quarantine, I think, or in coronavirus. I think that's how they used it, because they came out with it, I think, in the spring. So this is information that they are promoting. So the one thing that they're not promoting, that I know I have permission to say, but they're not going to print it on anything, is that just remember that every 60-day trial is per email address. Okay. And that's all I'm going to say. Okay. So you can use, if you have 60 days and it runs out and you're not done and you're not, you're not going to have access to Boardmaker Online because your schools just are not doing that this year, then use a different email address to get a different trial. The only problem is that it doesn't have all the activities you already made. So I'm going to show you something that you can use, that you can access from any email. Okay, so here's the core first learning. Basically how it works is that it goes over all the foundational core words. As you can see, they put them in sets. Okay, so there's I think 30 something, yeah, 36. Okay, and I'm just going to show you what one looks like. We'll just do the first one, Go. Okay, Go has all these different resources. There's your lesson plan, a parent letter. Where Did You Go, Go Fish, and Go, Go, Go are all books. And as you can see, you can just very easily download them. We'll look at one of them. Here's the Where Did You Go book. These are not edited, you can't edit them, but they're already created. And curriculum specialists created these, so they're all research-based. They probably worked with the universities to create them. As we scroll down with the interactive part to these, so this is where, if you're doing core words, okay, this is the interactive activities. These are already made. If they have a P on them, that means that you're able to record performance data. That means there's something in, so obviously this is a quiz, right? So it's gonna be able to record how well they do on the quiz. There's also usually a practice mode in the quiz, so to get the student used to that format. And then they have the books as an interactive book. They put the print right after there. So these are the 3 books. And then they have writing activities. So if your student is working on writing, they do have writing templates. And they're usually they have them at different levels. let's see. Okay, so I'm going to bring one up, and as it comes up, I'm just going to scroll down. They have a game, a printed game, bingo, flashcards, list poem. Oops, I was clicking too much, obviously. So here's the book. This is a book with a writing ability. So here's the picture, right? Then they have this. Here's the toolbar right here. I don't know if you guys can see it. I don't know how little. There you go. I'll make it bigger. So this one brings up a keyboard that was adapted. So here's very easy sentences, right? These are just complete. So this must be an emergent writer, right? They have the sentences. So this is really just having them figure out which sentence do you want to put on that first page with the bus. So let's go, today I go on the bus. So now that types it out for them. Now, if you have a writer that's a little bit more sophisticated, they can do they can start typing on their own, right? Like it'll use the keyboard. Okay, and they can do spell check. They can clear. And you can read the sentence.
I go on the bus.
Okay, oh, that's what they wanted. Okay, if they want to put any more. So it just depends. And then you can lock the page so that it doesn't, so you don't get any more writing on there. Just in case. So these are the on-screen activities. That's I think you got the idea behind that. That would support using core boards and learning the core language. Again, it just depends on the level of your writer, and these are all included, and these all can be used within your account and within your 60-day trial. Okay, so if you have students that are using AAC, the speech generating devices, or the high tech, you have some overlays for the ones that speak, like the text speak or quick talker. But then they also have the communication boards already for all the different activities that are in the folder that you saw. And it just depends on where your student's at, if they're using a 2x2 or 6x6, that's up to you what it is. So I really recommend that you look through here. If you need, a white paper on it, meaning with all the research that went into creating it, why they created it the way they did, FAQs, how to implement the whole program, they have those that documentation right here at the bottom. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone knows that you have access to this curriculum for free right now with Boardmaker Online, which is a great resource, however you want to use it. Okay, let me show you. Okay, let me show you how to get to that student center that I was talking to you about. All right, so when in doubt, go back to my Boardmaker, okay? You always are usually able to get to the most things, especially the activities that you're looking for. And in my Boardmaker, there's a playlist. So if I click on the playlist, it allows me to, this is where I'm gonna place the activities that I want to be on that on-screen window that on-screen window that my student's gonna bring up on her iPad. This is also something that you can bring up too. So, and I'll show you what I mean. So for the Student Center, if I can just launch it from right here. So I put these activities in there. And now I select it. And this is what the student will see on their device. Okay, and I showed you a small picture of it too. So depending on how many activities you want to put, and then you can put them in order, they can select it however. So if we select this one.
Which behavior is okay?
You can also, for a clean format, so they're not so you bring up your Boardmaker Online and there's a lot going on that website. If you want to have it so that the student only sees that student center, what I just showed you, going to my playlist is another way so that it just brings up the activities that you're going to do with them today. And they only see those 3 activities so they don't get overwhelmed by all this list. Plus, it helps you find them easily. It can actually help you plan for it so that you just go through, each activity as as they
Talking with
complete it.
friends. Which behavior is okay?
Okay, so this just let's see.
Bullying or hurting others.
So this is the multiple choice. Does the 2 choices. This is also one of the templates. So if you wanted to create your own, you can go to the templates like I showed you. You can even just type in multiple choice and the template will come up, and then you put in the content that everything's already programmed. If you want to change the voice, that's when it gets more, difficult. But for the most part, you can just do that. And then if you put it into a student's account, you can also record progress or the data, like how it was recorded. Just for SLPs who have different students, those are using access methods. Everything is accessible in the sense if they're using scanning or eye scanning, eye gaze, multiple switches, 2 switches, 1 switches, all that kind of stuff. You can customize each of these programs just by going up. Whenever you see this little conch right here, you can select that and you can see user settings and activity settings. So user settings is where you would be able to have, well, you're going to find all your options for accessibility. So you can see user settings. If we go to access method, for those of you who have students who are using different types of access method, this is where you would go to. Text to speech is where you can change the voices, and then symbol and language you don't need to know. If you want to see different options of what the on-screen activities have, you go to activity settings. So it makes sense, right? Yes, it's going to restart it because in case you change something. So some of these activities, it just depends on the activity, may have 1 or 2 options. Some of them may have a lot of options like this one. The multiple choice was always my favorite template. And I always recommend, like, when you use the on-screen templates, because there's so much to them, that you only really focus on 2 or 3 that you can use with a lot of your students, and then just adapt them for the students. Because the format, first of all, it helps them learn the format and how to be successful with the format. And second of all, templates like this have a lot of different options that will allow you to customize them for your students. So this one's more for, if you think of accommodations or modifications for your student, like on their IEP. You could do auto read, where that's automatically reading to the student. So if they're not, depending on their reading level, or you can take that off, turn it off if you wanted to, because it does make the activity take longer if it reads everything to the student, especially if you think of that book or books. But, so some students would get really frustrated with that, hearing all the reading. So if you look at just different options, show, stop, you have the ability to take off some of the options on the screen. For example, you have a student who would select the stop when they're using it, just to get out of the activity, right? Especially at the beginning. Then you can take that stop off. So that just kind of tells you, maximum errors. So before they correct the student, how many errors are they going to allow them to have? So how much errorless correct? If you want errorless correction, it could be, 0 and it corrects them right away. Or you can allow them a few times to process it, and so they have a more independent activity. I mean, you can even change the symbols, as you can see right here. And the feedback. If you have a student who doesn't like any of those sounds, you can turn the sounds off. You can put a reward sound, like if they have a favorite song, you can bring that song file in there, and it can play, or that, the beginning of the song or something like that, or whatever sound that they relate to as being successful or motivating, right, to finish it. So again, it just depends on how much you want to customize the activity, or you can, like you saw, you can just leave it as is. But just know that you have a lot of these options in some of the templates. Usually the ones that record progress have that ability to go between quiz mode and practice mode. Sorry, I forgot to show you that one because I was focusing on the first one, use quiz mode. You saw that it corrected the student, but if you don't want it to correct the student, you click on there, click on the drop down menu, True and false is computerese, okay? It's the people who programmed it. I don't know why they put true and false versus yes and no, but that's just the reason. So true is yes. But they do put descriptions to help you understand what's going to happen. But if you put true and you put save, let's put yes. Oh, whoops. I think I might have clicked too much. Anyway, what it does is it will then enable you to have the student to do the activity without any feedback at all. You just put the answers down, and then it will tell them how much they got correct and how much they didn't. So that is the core first curriculum. And again, I went to curriculum, use it, US, and then here was all the curriculum within these different tabs. There are other activities that you may find fun in here to use with the students, just for brain breaks or show the parents how to do it. One of them is, one of them is under curriculum. But so I would just recommend that you explore and see what you have access to. One thing I did want to show you before we wrap up, because I want to leave a couple minutes for questions, is the group. So I showed you all these different resources and showed you some skills, some simple tools to use within the Boardmaker Online to be able to edit your activities, find ones that have already been used, create new ones from templates. But if you're using the 60-day trial, eventually that will end and all those activities that you have will be lost unless you get the program, okay? But if you can't get the program, then you can create a group. So create a group right here, okay? And what this allows you to do is, I'm gonna go to my groups and go to the OVEC. We don't have anything in there yet, but I'm hoping eventually we will start getting some activities. These are ones, you can see the school districts use this all the time to do this, okay? Oops, I'm on the second page already. Here's OVEC. Okay, you just go to the group and it'll allow you to upload your activities. So if you create your group, and you can have it private, public, you can just share it with a few friends. So you can use the groups however you like. But if you just upload your activities and keep them in here, then you can access them from any computer and any email address. So, wink, wink. But yeah, so that's the workaround to that, so that you can be able to access activities. It's also just a great way to share boards and save boards, especially if you have a group that you're working with a lot. The IEP team, if you have a teacher, when you're doing collaboration, if the teacher and the SLP both have access to the Boardmaker Online, they at least have access to Boardmaker Community. Sometimes we've even, with the parents who are very involved, we tell them to get a community account, so that's free. And then if they see any activities on the free, the community activities ones where it's free, and they see ones that, they think their student would like, then they can place it in the group so that the team can look at it. And if they need it to be adapted, then they can adapt it, edit it with the editing tools, or print it out for them, whatever it is how they think that activity would be best used. So got a little way, we talked about communication boards and editing, but we also went into some of the other resources that you have access to with the Boardmaker Online account. Okay, I think I was able to show you most of it. Are there any questions or anything else?
So there aren't any questions in the chat, but if you all would like to unmute and ask Enid any questions, please, or myself, please feel free to do so. I did answer a few questions. I know Brian was talking about some districts have you used Microsoft Teams. All of the information that you see us presenting here in Zoom can be presented the same way through Microsoft Teams, and all of these PDFs that you download from a Google site can then be uploaded as well into a Microsoft Teams account.
Yes, for sure. And then I also put on that resource page, I also put all these resources in Wakelet. So you can share it with the public. This is on a public site. So I was thinking about that for those who don't have access to the Google Drive, and especially parents, right? You can share this link, and I put it on the resource page. You can share this link with them, and it has all these resources. So maybe since I do have a little time to explain it to you, I always try, sorry, I rushed. I just know there's so much information, and so I'm really bad about going off on tangents. So I try to narrow myself to the topics. But let me just show you what's in your Google Drive, and it's also on the Wakelet link. So I did put a PDF guide on how to register for that 60-day Boardmaker trial. So it will show you step by step how to do that. Thanks to by Boardmaker, I did not make it. This is the coronavirus communication support materials from Tobii Dynavox that I referred to at the beginning. They also have an at-home learning page on their website that also shows how to use some of the resources. So it has some videos and other PDFs that are great to share or to use as a resource. One thing I didn't show you, and they do have communication boards in there. There are thematic activities that are for free, and those have been for free for the last few years. I put them all in this folder, and while I'm talking about, let me just show you what's in them, because they're focused more on life skills, and some curriculum. I mean, space. I mean, they're limited though compared to the core curriculum that I wanted to show you related to the Boardmaker. But the thematic activities, I mean, you have space, living things, life skills, human body, family life. One of the things that I love about them is that they are differentiated, hence the fact that I called that out. You have level A, level B, and level C. So let me show you the difference between level A and you have a lot in there. The difference between level A and level C, and they're all PDFs. This one does not have any interactive on-screen activities to it. So they try to think of everything from an activity schedule. So when you're teaching it, they have the activity schedule. So something that you can, this is one thing you could print out or send to the parents and have them check off as you go through the lesson. So so that helps with self-monitoring, and also for, students who need that to keep track, and then maybe you even set up a timer, right? And how much each activities to help the student get through it. They have a following directions. So there's a lot in here. I rarely recommend that you look at it, but it's all printed materials. See, even a quiz that you could do a pre-test, and then, then the test. So you have a baseline. They have a board game, and each folder has this. Okay, so I'm just calling up things at each of these: a hidden picture, vocabulary, of course, a book to, that relates to the topic. And these are not editable, but it's a PDF, so I guess in a way everything can be edited. And so so you saw in the book, let me just bring up that up again, just the words. Okay, so that's level A. And then if we go to level C, this one has a recipe, and they should have they each have their own communication boards, okay, that are related to the core board setup. So here's your core words, and then what some people call fringe boards, little words, actions, descriptions, this week's plants. So it's always the vocabulary for that topic. Quick fires, not sure if everybody's familiar with that term, quick fires, but it's basically what we were creating with the communication board, just things that kids or people say all day long. Yes, no, mom, I don't know. Hey, look, come here. So that's what quick fires are. So those will always be part of a communication board, whether it's interactive or on screen, especially for, with Tobii Dynavox. I'm not sure if all the companies do that, but they do. So that's each of these will have that, but let's find the book. So the other folder also had a similar one. Let's see if anybody sees the book. Just tell me. Oh, So this is the teacher's guide. Sorry, there is a teacher's guide, which is really cool, especially if you're going to have the parents go over it. Maybe this is something that you send to them initially, so they can see what all the activities are going to cover, the vocabulary, and you say, just look at level A or just look at level B, and this is the vocabulary we're going to cover, follow-up books, and then over here on the right, they have tips, just tips, not saying this is how you have to do it. You're the teacher, you're the practitioner. But then there's communication tips for those that need a little bit of more assistance depending on what it is. Okay, and see, reward chart. I think the other one was just in a different order.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest difference is depending on how you open them, they come out in a little different order.
Yes, so A was not in the same order as B, but here's C. So here's a little bit more sophisticated book. Okay, so you saw level A, now this is level B. It's the same topic, okay, but there's a little bit more content to it and a little bit more pictures, a little bit more higher level content learning for the student. So all of this is in these folders, and I gave you a link directly to the folder, so you can just open them up and check them out and see if they're helpful. Again, use them as you need to. In the folder, there's also, let's see, the resource page. I'm sorry, Wakelet. You saw I put the videos for the Student Center app for more information. Communication partner tips poster, that may be helpful to provide to parents. It's user-friendly, just helps with the communication. And then I didn't go over this, but I mentioned a few times adding goals, so progress monitoring with all the activities, even if it's usage, like you can see how many times the student accesses it. If they access it at all. So all that kind of stuff. And then at the end is that PDF of the PowerPoint that I showed you at the beginning. Okay, sorry I didn't.
No, you're great. We're right on time.
Excited. I forgot to. I wasn't going to if we ran out of time, but since we had time, I love this resource.
That's perfect. I really appreciate it. Enid, thank you for being here today. Are there any other questions? All right, so I will be sending a follow-up email later today just with direct links again so that you can access all of this material to our bit.ly folder. And if you have any questions, please reach out to myself or Enid anytime. And next week, same time, same place, Enid will continue our conversation by looking at environmental supports. So we look forward to seeing you again, and thanks for being here today.
Great. Thanks, everyone. I look forward to, and you have our contact information.